All right, we are back again. We are in what, session 3 already, the first day of Ask Day. So with us, we have Evan Friedkin of Roobrik. I'm just going to get everybody a minute to get in here and get settled, go through our housekeeping. At the bottom, you have your chat button. If you're having trouble, any questions, or if you just want to like chat with the group, that goes in there. If you have a specific question for Evan about his presentation, put that in the Q&A and we will talk when he is done. What else am I missing, Steve? Oh, where are you from today? That's the next question. That's always a fun little icebreaker. Where's everybody watching from? So put that in the chat.
Yeah, and then the last thing I would just say is we are going to give away an Amazon gift card. We'll announce who the winner is tomorrow morning, but we're going to do a count on chats. So the more chats you put in, again, you can't just put 1, 2, 3 ABC. You put in Dave is the best looking guy on there. That might count. But we'll give away an Amazon gift card so you can buy pretty much anything you want that's worth $100 or less, right? No Maseratis or anything. I was actually in Scottsdale and they're doing this big car thing, and this very angry Maserati passed me yesterday morning. I think he might have, given me a one finger wave or something. I'm not quite sure about that, but anyway. Are we ready to go?
Scottsdale. Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Great. So Evan, thank you for joining us on this. We are going to learn some things from you. This is all about how we tell our story better. We know that senior living is for so many people the very best option. And it's I love our conversation with the Argentum. They're doing some great things on an industry-wide basis. But if you want people to like senior living better, it's up to you and your communities and your marketplace, and it's about working with the various companies to do a better job of it. So Evan, we're excited to have you here. We're going to let you just tell us who you are, and then you can go into your presentation.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, Steve. It was great seeing you yesterday out here in Scottsdale. So yeah, excited to kind of dig in on it. My name is Evan Friedkin. I head up business development here at Roobrik. And so basically today, what we're going to do is we're going to be spending some time talking about what we're calling this hidden audience. So I'm going to describe that a little bit more as I go through my talk. So I'm going to move over and share my screen so that everybody's able to see it. We go into slideshow mode so that you can see it on full screen. And so, like I said, we're going to spend our time talking about who's this hidden audience that is currently on your website. We're going to spend some time on who are they and how do we engage them. And so I want to take us all the way back to the year 2000, the rise of Google. This was the first time really that the general consumer was able to go to, well, really everybody could go to the internet, be able to type in anything that they were looking for and get an answer to any question they have in real time. Fast forward a little bit further, and what we started to find in the mid 2000s was this rise of the topic specific portals. So what I did here was I started off on the left with kind of early, pretty easy decisions and easy purchases of commodities. So the example I gave was Wine Library and Amazon, where you can go to Wine Library, do your research, find out anything you want to know, get reviews, and be able to make a purchase right there without ever having to talk to a salesperson. That same approach started following consumers as they moved through purchases that were a little bit more complex. So transportation, obviously cars are a little bit more complex than a book or a box of wine. Now you're able to go to Kelley Blue Book, figure out what your car's worth, and then go to Auto Trader and be able to purchase a car, again, without having to talk to anybody. Then you go to a little bit more complex and living options, whether it's apartments or homes, you can now do your research completely on your own. And again, the theme is you don't have to talk to anybody. Where I'm going with here is that over the past 20 years, consumers have become so used to doing their own research that they actually will do everything they can to avoid talking to salespeople. That approach works for not very complex decisions such as commodities, transportation, and housing. The second you throw medical or something that is more complex and definitely emotional, it becomes very complicated. And what was a convenience now becomes an impediment. For instance, sure, we all heard of the WebMD effect. You Google something medical, next thing I know, you're going to be spiraling out of control, finding out that you've got cancer and you need to remove something. That is not great. So these complex decisions, the internet doesn't really help. And so what that is introducing is this idea that information has gone in the past from being completely owned by the salesperson. The salesperson was the gatekeeper, and the consumer had no choice but to have that conversation and get the information they need. But as the internet became more and more prevalent, that information went from information asymmetry to information parity, where now the consumer can get the same amount of information as what the salesperson has. And so as a salesperson, and marketing, that changes everything. We can no longer gate everything. We have to be a resource first, and we can't force the conversations, which ultimately leads to this rise of this third type of person that is coming to websites all over the country. So what I like to do to kind of really drive home this point of who this hidden audience is, and the other analogy or the other synonym that I like to use is anonymous browser, is really talking about who's coming to the websites in the first place. And the best way to summarize it is I'll break them out into three main categories. For marketing folks, you might think of it this way as well. So the first one are going to be non-prospects. They are going to be job seekers, salespeople, residents, family members. Goal is to keep them out of the sales funnel. The second group are going to be the people who are motivated. They are folks who have already identified that senior living is probably what they want. They tend to fill out contact forms, pick up the phone and call. They engage and identify themselves to take that next step. This third group, and this is the audience that we're going to spend all of our time talking about today, is this hidden market or these anonymous browsers. The best way I can describe them is by telling a personal experience, because I identify with this audience, meaning I am a salesperson and I really do not like talking to salespeople. And it's not that I don't like salespeople, it's that I don't like being sold to before I'm ready to buy what they have to offer. I need to do my own research and get myself at least 75, 80% of the way there in knowledge so that I feel comfortable and confident having a conversation. And so really to drive it home and with an example is it's kind of like when I go to Best Buy to buy a TV and I walk in the front door and the salesperson on the floor comes up and says, "What brings you in today?" And the first thing out of my mouth is, "No, I'm good. I'm just looking." I was there to buy a TV. And I still told the person who was probably going to be able to answer my questions that I didn't need their help. What I needed to do is I needed to go look at the TVs, see the pictures. I really actually know nothing about TVs. Very quickly, I realized actually I do need their help. So then I have to go find that salesperson, swallow my pride and say, actually, I lied. I do need to talk to you because I don't know what I'm looking at. This same dynamic is happening in senior living websites, and it's all because of what I had talked about, where people have become so used to doing their own research without having to talk to somebody. And what's happening is this hidden audience of these anonymous browsers are coming to the websites, not finding what they're looking for, and then bouncing off. They go off to one of two places. Well, they end up on Google. And that's not great because they either get the WebMD effect or they get so much information, they just shut down and then push the decision off. And so the opportunity that we see really is, how do we help the industry really identify who is this hidden audience? How do we engage them? And what are they looking for? And so that's what we're going to dig into today. And so the goal of this conversation is there's going to be some takeaways that we can begin implementing almost immediately. So we're going to spend a lot of time identifying who the hidden audience is, what they're concerned about. We're going to talk about the ways that they prefer to engage on the websites. And then we're going to talk about what you all can do to begin capitalizing on it. And so as I'm going through this, I know in the chat, I see some chats coming in. If there are questions, feel free to put them in there. I'm also going to be asking you all questions for you to guess. So the way I'm setting this up is we are going to go through question by question. Before I do that, I want to let you know where we get this data from. This is coming from a tool that lives on a provider's website that's designed specifically to engage this hidden audience or these anonymous browsers. It is a series of questions that are designed to walk a consumer through this decision-making process. And by the end of it, get them to the point where they feel comfortable and confident to have a conversation with the salesperson. What we're doing here is we're taking all of the responses through the Roobrik assessment tool, rolling it all up from across all of our communities. So we're in about 1,500 communities across 140 providers. That does range across active adult, IL, AL, memory care, and skilled nursing. So there is a very wide array of data that is in here, and it is across the country. And so just to kind of set the tone there, we've got about I believe it's about 150,000 respondents over the past several months. And so that's kind of where we're getting the data, and that's what we're looking at here. So the first question I want to kick off, and I'm going to have everybody put their guesses in the chat. We ask on the left-hand side in the phone, to get started, can you tell us who you're doing this for? The options that you can go ahead and guess, we're going to be guessing on this tall bar that's almost 50%, who you think this hidden audience is. It's either going to be myself, mom, or parent, grandparent, or someone else. So go ahead and put in your guesses. I'll give it a few seconds and then I'll reveal the answer. I see loved one. I see mom. I see a few myself. I see adult child. All right. So I see some of those answers. What we're finding is 48% of the people who are those anonymous browsers who want to do their own research are looking for themselves. This oftentimes does surprise a lot of people. But when we take a step back and think about why this might be, how many of you, when you think about a grandparent or somebody that's a little bit older, they all carry around cell phones? Cell phones were the catalyst that caused people to begin doing research right when they start thinking about things. So it's not overly surprising. But what it's also telling us is that those prospects that are looking to the industry, they are more tech savvy. They want to do their own research. They don't want to do it as much in the old-fashioned way, if we call it, with talking to the salespeople. There is still a time and a place for the salesperson, but this audience is not ready for that yet. And so they love their technology and they want to do that research and take it into their own hands. So what I wanted to do now is I want to go into the age range. And so we're going to be guessing on this, the middle one. And I want everybody to go ahead and guess what you think the average age range for the older adult themselves. So the way I'm doing this is I'm stripping it out and I'm digging in on just the older adult, since this is a major opportunity for the industry. And so the options that they could be saying are under 55, between 55 to 65, 66 to 75, 76 to 85, or older, 86 to 95. So I'll give it a second. What we're finding is a vast majority are between the age of 66 to 75. But the one thing that I really want to hone in on is when we look at the people who are going through this and you compare them to your average age of your residents, is this what you're seeing? When I have conversations with folks in the industry, what I hear is no. They typically say the average age of their residents are in 86 to 95. This tells me that there is a lot of positive coming out or coming down the pike, meaning people are really looking to you all for solutions earlier. And now we need to figure out how can we get them over the hurdle, get them into the community, and then get them to identify with themselves, with seeing themselves in those communities. And so one of the struggles that I hear a lot is we can get them in, but then once they're there, they don't see themselves in the community of the current age of the residents. So they're identifying being a lot younger. And so that is a major opportunity to figure out, okay, how can we really target those older adults? that are significantly younger and looking for you all to solve different problems. And so where I'm going with next is we're going to dig in on why are they looking for senior living? So I'm trying to paint the picture here of what type of content can we be pushing out there to really dig in and get them to really identify and want to move forward. Because one of the things that I've always heard is if you ask questions about what senior living, what they're looking for as they age, they will describe what senior living offers. But if you say, do you see yourself in a community? The answer to that most frequently, and I'm sure you all have heard this, is no. And it's definitely a hard no. But they will describe it when and I see somebody put socialization in there, and that's what they're looking for. And so what I wanted to spend time here is we are going to look at, again, for the people who are looking for themselves, we're going to look at what their number one reason for wanting to move to a senior living community is. And so I'm going to tell everybody what the number one reason is off the top, because we're going to look at the number two, the reason, and everyone's guessing it. They said curious. That is exactly right. And it's because it's an easy answer, but we know that's not the real answer. So I want everybody to guess what they think the second most selected is for the dark blue bar for the people who are looking for themselves. And then I will show you. And so again, answers are over here on the left. So go ahead and put in your guesses. See loneliness, physical safety, health and safety. So I see a lot of safety. What's interesting for self-assessors, and oftentimes I hear this a lot, is especially when they're talking to people looking for themselves, they don't want to lean into care needs. When in reality, people who are looking for themselves are maybe not looking for care needs today, but they want to know that the community that they go to is going to be able to provide the care that they may need in the future. And so I would encourage everybody who, if you're in charge of marketing and content and having conversations with older adults, do not shy away from talking about care needs. They want to hear about it. They want to know that you offer it. They really just want to know that you're going to be there as they continue to need new services that you all offer. I was actually surprised that loneliness and isolation wasn't as high. And I also was surprised that feeling overwhelmed was not as high either. It is definitely interesting that they do really lean into kind of the future planning aspect, which again speaks to the fact that they are younger. They're younger and they're more, again, tech savvy. And so we really need to make sure that we're pushing out the content that resonates. And so really make sure that we encourage you to say that not loneliness, sorry, I was reading the chat, that care needs is definitely a high priority item for them. Move on to the next one. So then we go into, okay, well, what's holding them back? And one of the questions that we ask within the tool is, well, so what barriers are you going to have potentially in this decision? So go ahead and put in your guesses for the top few. They're all pretty similar. And I want to hit on a different point, more so than in an individual topic. But the main thing I want to highlight here is that it is all different variations of education. Understanding what is life in a senior living community like. So if you are not doing virtual tours, I think most folks are now, lean into those virtual tours. Client testimonials are incredibly important for this hidden audience. They need to know what is it like behind those doors. And we really need to help them have a very clear picture of if they move in, what will life look like for them? The next one is going to be, is it the right choice? So it all speaks to that same problem that we hit on in the beginning, which is senior living is oftentimes misunderstood. And they kind of know it is a viable option. And so they're trying to do their research. So make sure you're putting out content and really leaning into helping them educate themselves on your website so they do not feel like they have to go to Google. Help them understand the difference between independent living and assisted living and memory care and skilled nursing. Let them know that they are different and that you can move through them at different paces. Really help paint that picture for them so that they can start to see, What does this all mean? And that it alleviates some of those questions that they might have. The third one is going to be the financial situation. This is not probably surprising to anyone. I'm going to hit on this one again in a few minutes. But we really need to, again, help them be able to find the information they're looking for to help get those questions answered. Followed up by the last one, which is now even the right time? And that's really hard because when they have the conversation with you as a salesperson, it's a lot easier to help kind of get through that. But when they don't want to have that conversation, it's difficult to help them navigate all of the different thoughts that are going through their head. So if there's ways that you can start to introduce these new topics and start layering on information to help them make these good decisions in an organized way, it's going to be incredibly helpful. So drip marketing, whether it's through marketing automation, I highly recommend looking at that. Integrating all of that with one days and heart legacies to really make sure that you're getting those testimonials and all the fun things that are happening in the communities every day out to the general public. For the financial calculators, if you're not looking at having one of those, I highly recommend there's several vendors out there that are doing it. Definitely highly recommend being transparent on the cost to help them get those questions answered. Then we are going to look at, what does the consumer think? What is their timeline? So one of the questions we ask is, okay, so we're almost done the assessment. What timeline or what time frame do you think makes the most sense? Before I show the answer here, so everybody go ahead and put your guess in as what you think the most selected is. But before I go into this, I want to kind of talk about why I thought this was really important. And I want to dispel a myth. When I talk to a lot of marketers, they tend to think about this hidden audience as marketing qualified leads, which tends to go hand in hand with people who are not sure. They are kind of just doing the research and they're not even looking at making a change yet. They are kind of just in the exploratory mode, and they are naturally going to have a longer timeline. What we're finding is that is actually not the case. A vast majority of them are telling us that they do want to make a move within the year. And so I wanted to dispel that myth. This hidden audience is not those quote unquote marketing qualified leads that are going to need a lot more handholding. This hidden audience is actually far more empowered. They're far more educated. They want to take the time to know that they're making the right decision. So if you can get them there, I promise you their sales cycle is going to be quick. They've done it. They've done the majority of it on their own. You just kind of need to walk with them down that path, the last few steps. And so I want to hammer home that not all marketing qualified leads have a longer sales cycle, because what I've heard from several folks in the industry is when they tell you 6 months, they're going to move in 3. So whatever they tell you, cut the time in half, and that's typically what it looks like. So this tells me again that this is a really good sign. This tech savvy audience does see themselves in your communities, and they do want to make the change pretty quickly. And so they don't tend to have as long of a sales cycle as we might have otherwise thought. I want to tee this one up because I think there's a lot that can be taken away from with this one. So the way we gathered this data is it's not actually a core question that we ask in our tool. What we did here was we took a look at, of the folks who completed our tool and then proceeded to say, no, I'm still not ready to talk to a community, we wanted to understand why. So the definition of that hidden audience, who even after going through all the question set, they still haven't changed their mind. We wanted to know, what was that last thing that they needed to see to help get them to the point where they felt comfortable and confident to have a conversation with somebody. So I want everybody to put in their guess what they think the number one barrier was when that data came back. I see a $sign. Ways to talk with the family. That's a good one. Ways to pay. So I'll give it just a few more seconds. I think we're all on the right track here, because what we found is that 79% said it was cost. The other 52% said it was how to pay for it. You combine the two, a lot of people said both. It was technically 81% of the people who answered this question said their number one reason as to why they didn't want to talk to somebody on the sales team is because they didn't know what it costs or how to pay for it. So as a financial barrier, the opportunity for the marketing teams is you do not need to give out pricing if you don't want to. However, what you can do is give a clear path to get pricing. And what I mean by that is, so what we did with this data on our end was we took that information and we said, all right, well, so they still don't want to talk to somebody on the back end within the results of our tool for that the consumer gets to see. We changed our question or our call to action from, would you like to talk to somebody at the community to, would you like to receive pricing from somebody in the community? Again, we are not giving out the pricing, but just by giving them a clear path to be able to get it, we were able to increase the number of people who said, hey, I want to talk to somebody by about 6%. So the reason I'm sharing this with you all is definitely provide very clear paths for people to be able to get the information they're looking for, and then allow the sales teams to know that that's what they're looking for and lead the conversation with that. And so when you're thinking about the experience on the website, provide different journeys that people can go down and make it very, very clear to them what they will be receiving. And so what you're able to find is that a lot of people are actually more willing to talk to somebody if they're going to get what it is they're asking for. Lastly, another question we ask is, so if they're not ready to talk, we wanted to know, well, what do they think comes next? And so I do want to be cognizant on time. So if you want to put in quick guesses, go ahead. Again, what I found interesting here was that a vast majority, when we pull out more research, several 38, so about almost 40% are still telling us that a next step is still a path towards moving towards your communities, whether it's taking a tour or preparing a home for sale. They are further down this path than you may have otherwise thought. So again, even when they're still not ready to talk to somebody, they're still telling us that the next best step is to actually either get ready to sell the home or go in and talk to the sales team in a tour. And so really the point I want to drive home here is let's talk about that 13%, prepare the home for sale. Philip, yep, I hear you on that one. For sure, the huge opportunity. So the point I want to drive home here is this audience are not the ones who are going to be dragging their feet. They are far more ready. They're further down the path. I encourage you, do not let them slide off the websites. Provide them with the resources, the information, everything that they need to empower them to make good decisions. And I can promise you, sales teams, they like educated consumers. They don't have to combat with, they do not have to combat with, oh, I'm looking at a nursing home anymore. If we can lean into the education, they're going to come in and knowing more about what it is that you all do every single day. And it's going to be a much easier conversation. And so I hope a lot of the information that I provide here gives you all food for thought, things to bring back to the team, begin implementing in the website to make sure that we are engaging more of that hidden audience, getting more qualified leads over to the sales teams that are more educated and ready to move into your communities. So with that, I will open it up to any questions that you all have.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. That was great. I got most of your questions wrong, so that's troubling for me. But I think it's important. A takeaway here is that when you have, we are 20 some years into the digital age, and I don't know that people understand that that's been just like the Industrial Revolution, a shift in the way we sales and market to people. So 100% agree that we are now a resource of education, not so much a sales bullhorn. And I think a lot of people, they get stuck, they get their website, they get their digital front door up and they quit. And I think a lot of what you're going to hear this morning, and Philip can go off for his whole half hour about that 13%, but we rail for people we have partnerships with people like with Roobrik and because those tools that are going to further refine who your perfect new resident is and is going to move the right people down the funnel to you and make you more efficient, you need to arm your website with tools like Roobrik and chat and things like that. You need to do as much as you can to proactively move people along. And I think these tools are incredibly valuable to do that. So thank you, Evan.